Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Rangers morning briefing on Thursday, the 23rd of December. I'm Derek Clark. I'm joined this morning by Joshua Barry, as ever. How are we doing, Joshua?
Fine, Derek. Thank you. Yeah, good to be with you as always.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots to talk about, folks. Remember, if you haven't already done so, if you're watching us on YouTube, and thousands of you are doing just that, just hit that subscribe button so you'll never miss a video when we go live. The big news, we touched on it yesterday, Joshua, was the murmurings that the winter break could be brought forward a couple of weeks. The aim being that, of course, only 500 spectators are now allowed in football grounds for at least the next 3 weeks. So the SPFL felt it was best to bring the winter break forward so to enable spectators to attend matches once that ends, which seems rather ambitious, but it has went through. The winter break will commence after the Boxing Day fixtures, which puzzles me because supporters... it's 500 spectators in the grounds on Boxing Day, so I'm not too sure how that benefits the fans. But how do you stand on the winter break being moved forward?
Yeah, well, we obviously were speaking about it yesterday, Derek, and I think, look, you can understand clubs like Aberdeen, I can't think of another off the top of my head, who had Motherwell maybe, who had a couple of home games, were set to lose a lot of revenue. You can understand self-interest. I think the difficulty comes in that there's absolutely no guarantee, given the fact that the spike looks like, as Jason Leach said, it will kind of culminate at the end of January and start of February. That doesn't coincide with getting fans back to the football necessarily for these dates. So hindsight will tell. But yeah, frustrating, I think, because from the self-interest of Rangers, I'm sure they wanted to play on, but just I guess a difficult situation with lots of factors coming into it, lots of stakeholders. I'm quite surprised in a way it happened because the derbies that Sky had over the winter periods are so kind of, that's the biggest TV time for TV audiences, isn't it? I didn't know how much of a say they'd have in it, but I'd be surprised if start of February, Derek, that the stadiums are full again, which is really, again, can't believe we're back talking about this. I thought that was of the past, but frustrating. All Rangers can do now is go and win that game against St Mirren. If you go and win that game against St Mirren, you look back at that first part of Giovanni Van Bronckhorst era and you think that could not have gone better by any stretch. It might actually work well for the club in terms of that Van Bronckhorst will then have quite a lot of valuable training time. The players will get a rest. So it might work out okay from Rangers' self-interest point of view, but I think my immediate instinct was disappointed that it had happened, and kind of, as I say, I can't see supporters being back in, given that how many restrictions have lasted only 3 weeks in Scotland. I can't think of any off the top of my head.
Yeah, I'll just give you an inclination when those fixtures will take place. Of course, Rangers were due to play Aberdeen at Pittodrie on the 29th and then Celtic at Parkhead on January the 2nd. Now, those dates have now been moved, so Rangers will now go to Pittodrie on Tuesday the 18th of January, a 7:45pm kickoff. The Celtic game will take place on Wednesday the 2nd of February, and again, another 7:45 p.m. kickoff with that one. It's the first midweek derby between the two sides for over 10 years, which is bonkers. And that leads me to believe, we know that these matches are predominantly played at 12 o'clock on either Saturday or Sunday, Joshua. To play it, to organise it for a midweek, I'm surprised the police would have went along with that. That leads me to suggest that fans won't be in the grounds come the 2nd of February.
Yeah, I think it's hard to see otherwise, Derek. As you say, it's 10 years. I think was the last midweek Old Firm the one where, shall we say, things got slightly heated.
No, I thought it was the McCoy's Lennon and have you know, it was the season afterwards, the 28th of December 2011. Celtic won 1-0. It was the David Healy tackle on James Forrest that sparked a bit of a melee. That was the last one.
not the best tackle you'll ever see from David Healy, but yeah, I as you say, Derek, I find it hard to believe that a full house will be in because of that factor, but also because, again, you look at when Jason Leach has been saying this is meant to spike. You had Hamza Yusuf on Sky Sports yesterday saying that they can't give guarantees either way. That supporters will be back in after this 3-week break. So, yeah, as I say, frustrating, quite unique, I think, in comparison to what other leagues are doing. Completely understand clubs who want to protect the income, the match day income, and want to try and reschedule for that reason. But it seems unrealistic that will happen when these games are played. So, really frustrating to be back here. In terms of on the pitch, I don't think it really affects what happens. It's just a case of, as I say, Rangers need to beat St Mirren. That would be 8 league wins in a row, I think. Would it be 8 or 7?
7, I think. Is it
7? Whatever it is, that would be very impressive and would set Rangers up nicely for the second half of the season. Now, of course, with a couple more points advantage at the top of the table.
No, yeah, absolutely. I don't think anyone could have envisaged St Mirren's youth team, pretty much, let's be honest, taking anything off Celtic last night. So full kudos to Jim Goodwin and the buddies. Cracking result for them. I mean, it's startling that I've seen Jim Goodwin's interview after the game, and he said he never knew a lot of the players that were brought in that day. He never knew their names. A lot of them. So yeah, it's quite an astonishing result from St Mirren last night. So good on them. Stuart McLean gets in touch, Joshua. He takes credence on your version of David Healy's tackle. He says depends on your interpretation of a great tackle. It certainly was a forwards challenge, shall we say? And it was it just get cautioned as well. It wasn't a red card. So yeah, Willie Collum deemed it just a mistimed challenge. Okay, now one of the big talking points to come out of bringing the winter break forward, Joshua, is the fact that, of course, the AFCON, the African Cup of Nations, is taking place. Now, of course, Rangers have Joe Rebo, Calvin Massey and Leon Balogun, which surely will be called up to the Super Eagles squad for the tournament. Now, they will miss those games against Aberdeen and Celtic should Nigeria progress from their group and reach the final stage, the latter stages of the competition, which is likely given the group they're in with Egypt and 2 other teams that aren't expected to do anything there. So they are expected to get to the latter stages. Now, they will be a massive miss, there's no doubt about it. There is there was on the Rangers Review website last night, there is a rule in place, the SPFL rules, G7, which states a club shall be entitled to apply to the board for the postponement of any official match where 3 or more of its players who would otherwise have participated in such match are unavailable through international selection, and following receipt of such an application, the board may postpone and rearrange the relevant official match in accordance with Rule G3. What do you make of that, Joshua? A lot of players set to miss that Old Firm game, not just the Nigerian trio, but it could be a whole influx of other players, both from Rangers and Celtic.
Yeah, who knows? I guess it would be, certainly from Rangers' point of view, to be missing Joe Rebo would be really problematic. I don't know if you're going to play that system with a runner like Joe Rebo who has the freedom to go beyond or go short. I don't think Yanis Hadji gives you that same threat, certainly in behind off the shoulder. So I don't really know how Rangers replace that. I mean, I was writing on the site this morning about how there's probably the need for a bit more depth at the number 8 position anyway, Derek, because you look at the number 6, you've got Davis, Lundstrom, Kamara, Jack. You look at the number 8, and you've really only got Aribo and Arfield in terms of players who give you that nice blend of defensive and offensive capabilities. Bakuna hasn't really been tried out. Hadji hasn't. I don't think he's started as a number 8. He's only started as a number 10. So, yeah, who knows? I mean, it'll be strange, but it's strange to not have an Old Firm game at New Year anyway. And I think part of us all are just disappointed that you had 2 big games to look forward to, going away to Aberdeen and away to Celtic. I think given the run of fixtures that Rangers have been on, you'd be very confident of results. Equally, you look at the game against Dundee United and you could see tired legs, justifiably, given how many games have been played. I imagine the work that's gone in on the training ground to adapt to this new manager's methods and techniques. So maybe a rest will do them no harm. But certainly, if we are missing Aribo, Bassey, and Balogun, the one that strikes me as well is Bassey there, Derek, because I think his pace off the back line has really kind of calmed a lot of the vulnerabilities that Rangers have been witness to with long balls and behind, or long passes, I should say. We'll see what happens. Hopefully, Hollander's back for that time.
Yeah, there's an important point to raise as well. CGM55 says we're assuming the AFCON will go ahead. And we actually release players for it, which is not a given. Yeah, that who knows what the situation will be in a week or so's time. Like this point that's been brought up by Gary Gray, which leads us nicely on, Joshua, to Nathan Patterson, who I wanted to speak about. Rumours of a £10 million bid for Patterson. Great player, but we can't guarantee him game time. Should we move him on and let Gio reinvest in the squad? Now, this comes amid reports that Everton are preparing a third bid for Nathan Patterson in January. Now, the Times down south suggest that Patterson is keen on a transfer to the Premier League. What do you make of this news, Joshua? For me, I think Everton will definitely come in for Nathan Patterson in January. I think they'd be silly not to. For me, Nathan Patterson walks into that Everton side on that right-hand side. I think he's a better option than Seamus Coleman. And I think Rangers really will be tested with a big money offer in January for Nathan Patterson. What's your opinion on that?
It's a really difficult situation, Derek, because I think if you look at any other position on the pitch, whether that be someone in behind Ryan Kent in terms of the pecking order, behind Alfredo Morelos, Connor Goldson, there's a clear pathway to either the player being sold, the player in front of them leaving, in the case of Goldson. The one position where you think that is almost you don't see how James Tavernier is not Rangers right back for the next 3 years unless the club make a difficult decision. That's the one position that Patterson finds himself in. And then you have to think, well, is there a way that you can play them both? Because there's no way that Nathan Patterson for the next 3 years will only play 15, 20 games a season, And anyone knows that. He's too good to do that. Is there a way you can fit them both into the side? Does the benefit of playing Patterson by doing that, does that match up to actually how it will impact the team if it doesn't work well? So it's a really difficult situation, Derek. I do think that in some home games, for example, you could play them both in the same way that you've seen Borna Barisic tuck in from the left and build up. I think you could see James Tavernier do that on the right. But again, is that what Van Bronckhorst wants to do? Does he want to have two quote-unquote right backs in the same starting 11? So you have to think again that the club have known this, bearing in mind that there seemed to be no pathway for the pair to play together under Steven Gerrard. You have to presume that Ross Wilson will have known this, and they'll have a plan. It might be one of these strange situations where you have a player who's the best youth product to come through in however many years, but as I say, it's the one position in the team that is nailed on. Because for me, James Tavernier's got a long-term contract, or at least 2 or 3 more years, I think, at the club, and he's too good to drop. Basically, you can you could probably adapt his role. Can you allow them both in the team over a long period of time? I don't know. So it's in a way, Derek, it feels like a good situation to have, but also not so, because everyone would like to see Patterson play more games. Everyone would like to see Patterson have a good few years at Rangers before, I think everyone agrees, probably at one stage he would move on to a bigger club. But you can understand that from his point of view, he's now his country's first choice right back. If he's getting interest in the Premier League and he's not playing in his favoured position, you can understand why he would want to go and play football. So a difficult situation, and you've been saying for quite a few weeks, I can see in January this being a resolution where if he's not playing enough games, he maybe looks for a move. And can anyone really justifiably say that it's the right time to phase James Tavernier out? I don't think so. He's in the prime of his career, really continues to do really good numbers for Rangers going forward, and has improved as a defender in my book, still with a couple of vulnerabilities, but that's why he's at Rangers, not in the Premier League for the last few years. So a difficult situation, Derek, and I don't really know what the resolution is. But in the same token, it's a good problem to have that you have those assets. But from your opinion, I think you would sell them, wouldn't you? Take the money and reinvest.
No, I would reluctantly take the money. I think he's one of these generational talents that we don't see too often.
Yeah.
I can see him turn up down south in the Premier League. I can see him walking into that Everton side and doing really well, and then on the back of that, earning an even bigger money move. He's at that age where, I mean, it's a lot of potential, of course, with Patterson, but he's just shown in glimpses just how good he is. And you mentioned Scotland there. He comes in and sets up goals, scores goals, and he's just he's a fantastic player. And like you say, he's not going to be happy for the next 3 years just to play second fiddle to James Tavernier. It's a difficult one at Rangers, isn't it? Can you see him coming down south and playing straight away, or do you think it may be a few years before we see him?
I think he could. Yeah, absolutely. Because you see him go into that Scotland setup, Derek, and I think he's a young player that doesn't appear phased. Even you look at cast your mind back to the Antwerp game where he's had this kind of scare of his Rangers career. Back then, you don't know how it's going to play out, given that Rangers are obviously about to closing in on the title, and he comes on and instead of playing safe passes for 10 minutes, he goes and scores within 30 seconds. And I think that's quite an indictment of the player, the character that he is. And you've seen that in lots of his performances. You know, he was thrust in at the end of last season, Old Firm games, whatnot, and I don't think it fazed him. So I think, you know, you've got Seamus Coleman there. I know Coleman doesn't really have much competition. You've got John Joe Kenny, who, you know, we know, having watched him in the same Old Firm games as Nathan Patterson, is not at his level. So I 100% could see that. And I think Patterson will know that. I've no doubt that he will want to. He's a Rangers fan. No doubt that he'll want to stay for a few years at least and win things. And maybe, Derek, there is a resolution. I know left back didn't work with him because of the type of game it was with Rangers at the weekend. I could see a solution where if you're playing one holding midfielder, you have an inverted fullback. I think there is ways to work around it, but then Patterson might want to just go and be a first choice right back or have that kind of pathway. And who knows how many more years does James Tavernier have? You look at him, how many games has he missed? Not very many. You could conceivably see him as someone who's playing right up into his mid to late 30s. Certainly, and I think he's just turned 30 just now. So it'll be interesting to see what happens as ever. But I do think that the club will have recognised this. They'll have known when they offered James Tavernier that new contract. Equally, in the same breath, you've got to mention that James Tavernier is one of Rangers' very best players, one of the best players in the league. You know, you take his output out of the team this season, and I don't think he had as many points, certainly in difficult moments. So who knows what will happen? But I definitely think that Patterson, if he was to go to Everton now, he wouldn't look out of place.
Yeah, but I like this point by Stuart Grant. It would take nothing less than 12 million with a 12% sell, and I'm sure Ross Wilson will be making sure that Rangers get maximum value should Nathan Patterson move on in January. There's no doubt about it, but expect interest. That's for sure. Okay, folks, that'll do us there. Thanks to everyone getting in touch as ever. It's really appreciated. If you're watching us on YouTube, remember, just hit that subscribe button so you'll never miss a video when we go live. And also to take advantage of the Rangers Review website itself to support top quality journalism covering the club you love. It's just £2.99 a month. Just join us at rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe. And we've got a fantastic article on there this morning from Stevie Clifford from the Four Lads Had a Dream blog. He's got his Rangers 2021 awards. So he's got Goal, Player, Moment and Clubman of the year. So go and check it out when you get a chance. Okay, that'll do us there. We'll be back tomorrow on Christmas Eve.
I won't be back, Eric. So I'll say my happy Christmas just now to everyone. That they have a nice day. And I'll speak to them on the 26th from hopefully another win for Rangers.
Yeah, I hope Santa's good to you, Joshua. Yeah, folks, join us tomorrow. But until then, enjoy the rest of your Thursday.